too soon. Let's cruise away from here. Oh yeah, don't be confused. The way is clear. And if you want it, you got it forever. This is not a one-night stand. I said, let the music take your mind. Oh, just listen, you will find. I said, we're gonna fly away. That you come my way. I love it when we're cruising together. Oh, city music was made for love. Cruising was made for love. I love it when we're cruising together. Yeah, cruising, yeah. Oh, I said grooving, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Cruising, I said grooving, I said grooving. Oh yeah, we cruising, cruising, grooving and cruising and grooving and cruising and grooving. You gonna use mine?
That helps. That's a spiritual lesson. Check the switch. Works better when it's on. Good morning, friends. Welcome to Unity of Fort Collins. We just did a countdown on the screen because we've been having so much trouble getting people to come to their seats. What do we think? I think it might have worked. So anyway, it's such a good problem to have that people don't want to quit talking to each other, that you have trouble starting the service. So we'll take it, but that's the latest in the gimmicks. If we have anybody new here today that would like a welcome packet, if you put your hand up, one will appear for you. Welcome packets? All right. And if you want one, you get to say hi to the baby. That's always worth it. Welcome to folks online. We're so glad you're joining us. It's such a nice thing that we have the option to have people join online. And I don't know how many of you remember how much has happened since COVID. A lot. But tech at Unity has happened since COVID. So there are some gifts. It's a beautiful thing. Our speaker today is our own Reverend Jim Yeaw. Yahoo, Jim, thank you. Our reader is Kellee James with the big voice. And our musician is Elise Wonder. So we're so grateful to have you all. So here's the deal at Unity. We take turns doing stuff. So anybody who's interested in reading, you could read. you could take a turn. And it's good practice if you think you might want to. Try it, because I guarantee you it's a audience full of love. You won't be sorry when you look out there and say, oh, these are my friends. Our chaplain today is Bonnie. Do you want to say hi, Bonnie?
Hi, everybody. I'm Bonnie, and I am your prayer chaplain for today. And I invite you to come and visit me in the Myrtle Room with any concerns or, better yet, things that you would like to celebrate. See you later.
Thank you, Bonnie. So, unity is founded on affirmative prayer. So, we engage in affirmative prayer here. It's part of the fabric of unity. The Youth and Family Program is focusing on the nature and the divine plan for all creation. And this month, that's for this month, and today they're learning about insects and spiders, arachnids. Woohoo! Jim, look at what happened out there.
Thank you, Ann. I finally figured out how to do that. So, but anyway, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank all of the approximately 25 volunteers that I had helped me throughout the project, working outside. And this week, Nancy's daycare summer camp thing, they actually fed us Friday, so we'd like to send out our thanks to that. And this week's helpers, Steph Diamond, Kevin Couch, Mike Hawes, Sharon and Stephen Mueller, Tamara and Peter Parneg, Julie's boys, Nathan and Michael, Lil, and Leanne, who removed some weeds for us and painted the door back purple, so when we took our picture, we didn't have the little blue stripe there. And I'd also like to thank the behind-the-scenes people, Julie, who did a lot of legwork in the office for me. I'd appreciate that. And Jim for taking all my endless questions about different things. And our design team, Reverend Sharon and Lil. And just a little bit of information about the project overall. Our landscape designer, Jenny, with Fresh Bloom Designs, she told me the estimated cost for this project of this size would be about $25,000 plus or minus $2,000. And right now it's looking like it's probably going to cost us maybe about $4,000 after all the different things. So all the volunteers who helped that cut down costs altogether. And I'd also like to say, volunteering for me, I learned a lot about the members of the church who came out and volunteered with me, and I think that's a good way to find out about the people in the community to come out and volunteer. And some of the highlights during this week, the driver who delivered our rocks about a week ago, who also delivered the last bit of pavers we needed, the stepping stones, thought the project went very fast, and it looks really great from his point of view, and he sees a lot of projects because he delivers for Crystal Landscape. And one last thing, Steph found a little green frog in our mulch pile, and he's been sticking around the last few days. I just saw him Saturday, so he's our newest church member, and he's not a church hopper. I'm sorry, that's my dad joke. Thank you.
Aw. So we've got about $1,500 left, mostly in plant costs. So if you are moved to buy us some plants, wouldn't it be cool if we had kind of a break even on this? So let's buy some plants, $1,500 worth. Thank you so much. Reverend Jim's starting a new topic in his Thursday night Zoom class. It's based on the book Essential Spirituality by Roger Walsh. So if you're interested about, Jim does cool classes all the time. So he's got a kind of a following of folks who love to come to his classes. Sarah Rain is doing the Interfaith Chant and Music on Saturday, the 27th, from 7 to 9 here. I like to refer to Sarah as spiritual crack. So come see Sarah. Mark your calendars for a fun event August 4th. Our own Debbie Smith is doing a wellness workshop right after the service. So she has more than 100 ways to make you laugh. So do you want to stand up and just wave, Debbie? More than 100 ways. Make us laugh. How much fun is that? That's good. Community lunch bunch, going to the breakfast club at 11:30. Check out the bookstore. That's it for today. Let's do our unity blessing together. Our unity centers us in light and peace, allowing us to recognize our God within and to radiate that love to the world. Thank you.
Thank you all to who came out to Horsetooth Tavern yesterday. I've been playing bi-weekly, so I'll be playing again on August 3rd. And then I'm playing again this coming Friday, the museum in Old Town. The Center for Creativity is celebrating their grand reopening, so I'll be playing Friday evening for that. Are you getting ukulele? Can you hear the uke? Okay. If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you're ever lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we're called to help our friends in need. And you can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. 'Cause I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, I'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. If you're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep, I'll sing a song beside you. And if you ever forget how much you really mean to me, every day I'll remind you. Find out what we're made of when we're called to help our friends in need. And you can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. Yeah, if you know it, please join along. 'Cause I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, yeah. Ooh, ooh, you'll always have my shoulder when you cry. I'll never leave you, never asking why. And you can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. 'Cause I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, I'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, yeah. Ooh, ooh, Thank you. And now a reading from Kellee.
Good morning. My reading today ponders the discovery of faith, ponders the search for truth and belief, and how we can find each one, though they are not always the same thing, and how belief can change over the course of our lives. The first part is a little bit here from the Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz and Don Jose Ruiz. The truth is objective, and we call it science. Our interpretation of the truth is subjective, and we call it art. Science and art, the truth, and our interpretation of the truth. The real truth is life's creation, and it's the absolute truth because it's truth for everyone. Our interpretation of the truth is our creation, and it's a relative truth because it's only truth by agreement. If we learn a new way of being, a new religion or philosophy, this may create a conflict with what we learned before. New beliefs clash with old beliefs, and the doubt comes right away. What is right and what is wrong? Is it true what I learned before? Is it true what I'm learning right now? What is the truth? This last little bit of poem by Khalil Gibran. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled. From the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean because only then will fear disappear. Because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean.
That's cool. I didn't even know that you were going to be reading on the river, and now I'm going to be playing my song, The River. I love it when that happens. Right? It's so easy easy to get caught up in elementary stuff, and day-to-day living's got me feeling more like giving up than picking up and carrying on. But we resist, persists, and my struggle leaves me breathless, spits me out a stressed mess, and I sink with what I cling to, indeed I do. So when I feel that life is pulling me under, it's the best I can do to keep my head above water. I just sit back and listen to that current urging me, teaching me. She says you got to go with the river, flow with the river, got to let your spirit know it's at home in the flow. You got to go with the river, flow with the river, got to let your spirit know it's at home in the flow. Hands straight up breaks that levee you could never quite be ready for. I said you're kicking and you're screaming and you wish that you were dreaming. Is this all you've been living for? I said you're giving it all your strength and it's taking up all your strength. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? So when you feel that life is ripping you under, it's the best you can do to keep your head above water. Won't you sit back and listen to that current urging you, teaching you, go with the river, flow with the river, got to let your spirit know it's at home in the flow. Yeah. You said you got to go with the river, flow with the river, got to let your spirit know it's at home in the flow. When you catch that peaceful eddy, you got to dip your toes in the river. You got to down to that cool, clean, deep water. And praise the deep. Oh, you got to let go with the river. You got to let your spirit know it's at home in the flow. When you're coming to the end, oh, when you're coming to the end of the flow, and you just don't know what's gonna happen to you when you just become the ocean. Oh, surrender to the motion. Give yourself a love and give yourself some loving. Oh, and praise the deep, praise the deep, praise the clean water.
Well, thank you, Elise. And good morning, all you beautiful people. It's always good just to stand here and just look at you for a minute. Hey, you know, my mother had a saying that I heard her say several times. Curiosity kills the cat. Now, I don't know what in the world that was about. And it has nothing to do with what I'm going to say today. And we certainly don't want any dead cats around here. But a few weeks ago, I was asking a group as they met to give me some ideas as to what you'd like to hear on Sunday morning. And lo and behold, a couple of you sent me long lists. I have enough topics for Sunday morning to last me for at least 4 or 5 years, so I hope the church will keep me around that long in order to satisfy all those desires that you might have. There seemed to be a topic that has to do with curiosity, I guess. Several of you have mentioned to me you'd like to know how in the world I got from being a Baptist minister, way out here somewhere, to a unity minister way over here somewhere. How did that ever happen? Yeah, I see some of you saying, yeah. So I thought that this morning I'd share some intimate details of my long and winding life. See what you think. And I hope that I give you some things that's beyond just me and will create some topics for you to think about. Before I start, I'd like to preface it. First of all, I'm not going to talk about right or wrong, correct or incorrect. And certainly I'm not, in what I say in my experience, going to say something that will cause you to believe that those Baptists that are meeting down the street, they must be different or something, whatever your opinion might be. There's no right or wrong. I was in that spiritual pathway that was perfect for me. Just because I moved on to something else doesn't make that previous pathway any wrong or right or better or worse or anything like that. Second thing I'm going to tell you about is that I'm going to use an analogy. I might as well explain the analogy now. That analogy, if you think of the old-fashioned department stores that used to be in the center of all of our cities before Amazon come along, those stores that may be 3 stories, and there was always a bargain basement, right? And between those floors there were escalators. My daughter loved the escalators. As a little girl, she'd go into the store and she'd ride the escalator until some mean clerk came along and said, "Kids, you can't play on the escalators." Well, I'm going to use an analogy of an escalator and a department store, multiple stories. The third thing I might tell you about is I'm going to base this talk on levels of, or memes, levels of consciousness. And there's a whole lot of individuals that have written on this subject in the area of philosophy, like I'm thinking about Don Beck, for instance, who wrote a book called Spiral Dynamics. And it was used in the situation in South Africa in the apartheid days. It helped the white ruling class of that country to understand the other residents of their country, the black population. Because sometimes we can't see that other part of humanity because we're so engaged in our own meme or level of consciousness or level of understanding. That crazy uncle of yours that believes in the political party opposite of yours, that person, they can't see anything different. That's where they are. That's a level of understanding that they're that. That doesn't mean they're wrong. It means they're just different. They have a different understanding of humanity and the country and politics and everything else. And there's others. You know of Courtney's talk here about David Hawkins. He has levels. In fact, he has numbers for these levels And she's explained that very well recently. And then there's Ken Wilber. Ken Wilber's a philosopher that has done tremendous work in helping us to understand or see that other person, a level of understanding or a meme or a level of consciousness. So what I've done is I've taken my life and I've reduced it to 4 levels. There's probably 7 or 8, but I've combined them just for simplicity's sake. So you ready for the story? You are? Well, once upon a time, in a land far away, I was brought by my father to the local church because he thought us kids needed to go to Sunday school. The church in that village, Fiskville, Rhode Island, happened to be a Baptist church. Fiskville Tabernacle Baptist Church still exists today. And so my parents brought me there, and I love that place because they gave us these papers every Sunday, comic papers. And there were stories in those papers about Noah and the ark and David and Goliath and Paul. I love those stories. I love getting that paper every Sunday. Well, throughout my childhood, for several years, I attended that little church in Rhode Island. Well, as I graduated high school, I ended up going to California Baptist University and was very immersed in the religious studies that they offered there. And during that period of time, I eventually graduated and went on to be a Baptist pastor at Calvary Baptist Church in Whittier, California. Life was good. I ended up with 2 little kids, a church family that was loving and concerned very much like you are. But then something happened. This is dangerous. I began to read stuff. I began to see a different point of view. Now, it's better perhaps not to read a bunch of stuff and to find out alternative points of view, because I found out some things. For instance, I found out that Adam and Eve had some sons, Cain and Abel and Seth. And then the Bible goes on to explain that these boys had children. They begat children, and they begat again, and they begat again, as the Bible says. Well, I thought, where do their wives come from? I got in trouble by thinking, where did their wives come from? What's going on here? Did they marry their sisters? What's happening? Well, then I discovered something else in the book of Deuteronomy. See, the very beginning of the book of Deuteronomy, it says that this is a book written by Moses. But then you turn the pages and you go over to the 24th chapter. And there it talks about his death and burial. Did Moses write about his own death and burial? Now, these are just questions. I hope I'm not offending any of you. But there are questions that arose that began to cast some doubts. Some doubts about things. Was the story complete? Did this all-knowing God, he didn't know that Adam and Eve were going to eat that fruit of that tree. And if the all-knowing God did know that, why is he so upset about it? He banished them from the garden. Why? Why? Why did God get so angry angry enough to sacrifice his own son on a cruel cross because he's angry at us for supposedly being born in sin. Why? Why was that? And to give you perhaps a more contemporary question, and I'm going to pose this as a question to you and not give you an answer. Recently, there was a political event. Somebody grazed Donald Trump's ear with a rifle shot. And I'm listening to the commentators on television, and they say the hand of God saved Donald Trump. Well, my question is, how come the hand of God didn't save Corey, the individual that was there, that was a wonderful father, a community volunteer? So you see, these questions arose in me. And the more the questions arose, the more unhappy I was. I was caught in the midst of a quandary. After all, my income, I was being paid by a church to teach certain things. I had to teach them. The deacons told me I had to teach this message. And if I didn't, I'd probably lose my job. And who's going to hire a fired Baptist minister? So fear arose within me. I was miserable. I was grumpy. Well, I'll tell you the next stage in the story. I was asked to step down from that ministry. And eventually, later on, I was in the insurance business. You know, it's all sales one way or the other. Now I'm telling you this, and perhaps this might disturb you, but there are Baptists and other pastors all throughout this country that don't know what to do. There's a book written called The Silent Pulpit. A friend of Sharon's and mine, we met him at the Unity Convention. He's a pastor of a large church in Oklahoma. And he's watching the television one day with his kids. And there were these emaciated little children from one of the countries in Africa. And he thought to himself, these kids have never heard of Jesus, so therefore my church says they're going to hell. Well, these little kids are already living in hell. What kind of a God would it be that would commit them to eternal punishment? It wasn't their fault that they lived in Africa and had never a chance to really attend the Fistfield Tabernacle Baptist Church Sunday school. So you see, what happened to me at that point was exactly what's happened to hundreds of other individuals and even pastors of churches. We've had to leave that belief system and go up the elevator, the escalator, to something different. I left that ministry in California, and I felt a newfound freedom because I was not worried about my income, not worried about what I could or could not teach. And so I went to the first floor. And the first floor was very different than the basement. Because you see, in that basement, there was a collection of me and others that were afraid of any information from the outside. Basements don't have windows. Basements are contained. Basements are dark. And there's a darkness in that type of belief system where you're fearful, when you're afraid of God, when you're afraid of life. when you begin to get that belief that I'm born in sin, where you get the belief that I'm not perfect and whole, where I get the belief that I'm not perfect, I'm not well. Because that's what that society, a fear of God, engenders in us. Now, on that first floor, when I went up that escalator, I found a new form of freedom. In fact, if you can give us the next slide up here. This is the news currently. Millennial parents are raising their kids without religion because the predominant Christian religion tends to be that religion that teaches that we're not well, we're not whole, we're not blessed by God. Give me the next one, if you would. Americans are running away from church. They don't have to run away from each other. Today, on this Sunday morning, less than 30% of individuals here in Fort Collins or anywhere else are affiliated with any religion or any church or any synagogue because of this message that is so damaging to us psychologically. So that's the story of how I left Baptist Church, how I moved on to virtually no religion. The God at that point to me became invisible. God wasn't in my sphere of thinking. But then, one day, I was dating a woman in San Diego. I had divorced by this time. And she said, "Come with me. Come with me." Well, when you're dating a woman, you go ahead and do that if you're interested in that relationship. And she brought me to a church. I would call it a spiritual center. And that spiritual center, the speaker of that particular Sunday was a lady by the name of Terry Cole Whitaker. So some of you know of her. There's 3 or 4 things that struck me. Number one is the minister that was speaking on that Sunday was a woman. I wasn't used to a woman minister in the Baptist church. I've solved that kind of disruption in my thinking by marrying one. So women ministers are okay now. Second thing I didn't quite understand is that she called the divine Mother, Father, God. What is this? God has feminine qualities? Wow, that was new to me. But more than that, I discovered that that community seemed to be different in some way than any other community that I'd ever been in. In fact, that community meeting in San Diego seemed very much like this community. It's sort of the community where last week someone posted to our Facebook page, "It's a room full of love," they said. Did you know that someone that visited here a week ago defined you in that way? What does that make you feel like? Happy, happy, happy. Yes, you're a community of love. Gone were those theologies that were made up by a council in Nicaea and other places. Gone were all those theologies, but it was replaced by a community built together, joined together, participating as a community. So I'm going to read you a definition of that community. And this definition is from this book, Essential Spirituality, which we're discussing on Thursday nights. World's religions to cultivate kindness, love, joy, peace, vision, wisdom, and generosity. The essentials of spirituality. The essentials of spirituality are not found in a book. They're found in our hearts. But I had never heard this before. I had come from another planet, you might say. Well, this is what this author says. Gradually the heart begins to open. Fear and anger melt. Greed and jealousy dwindle. Happiness and joy grow. Love flowers. Peace replaces agitation. Concern for others bloom. Wisdom matures. And both psychological and physical health improve. That's the definition of what happens within New Thought. And whether you call it New Thought Christianity or New Thought whatever, that's what happens when we immerse ourselves in this level of a philosophy. So you see, I went from that second story, that story where there was an invisible God, to now up the escalator again to another level of understanding. A God that is love. There's only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good. There's no other presence. And when we say that, that's not a definition only of God, but it's a definition of you. There's only one presence, which is you. All right? So, my question is there something more? Here we are as a unity community in Fort Collins. And we're experiencing all these things, this author of Essential Spirituality. Is there more? Is there another story? Is there another escalator? Is there something else to experience? And yes, I believe there is. I've been immersing myself in a few books like I always tend to do. Here's one. It's called Integral Christianity. This could also be integral spirituality, or integral Buddhism, or integral whatever. In fact, I would invite you to identify with that tradition that is predominant in your life, because there's a wise man that said, you can't chase two rabbits and catch one. All right? So, in this book, let me read you a couple of definitions very shortly about what integral spirituality is all about. It's a level of spirituality even perhaps somewhat beyond what we experience within unity or New Thought. It's a level of spirituality that I'm just beginning to understand because I've never completely experienced it. But I believe it does exist. It says here, integral spirituality recognizes the word God can be both wonderful and weird. Have you heard that word before? Weird? The word God may be the most beautiful word in the English language. It is a unique linguistic and theological treasure. On the other hand, the word God has been so locked into traditional belief systems that it sometimes seems dangerous to use. In my vision of integral spirituality, we've reclaimed the word God. We've come into the freedom to speak about God without meaning the traditional God. We can also freely use other names and metaphors, such as universal wisdom, ultimate mystery, infinite being, higher power, sacred mystery, being itself, the sacred, maker of heaven and earth, spirit. So we don't reject God in integral spirituality. We bring it into our understanding. That's what the word integral means. Inclusive. Bring it in. Let me give you a couple of other examples here quickly. Regarding the Bible, now some of us have rejected the Bible, but the Bible does contain spiritual truth. And here it says, the integral level church has found itself with respect to the Bible. The battle about whether it will be traditional and cling to rigid literal interpretations is over. Most of its members now accept the place of modern inquiry into the writing and the preservation of biblical documents. The Bible is now seen as a fascinating account of the evolutionary process on the spiritual path. Understanding it in terms of spiritual development provides a way to appreciate and value the Bible in all its aspects. And then about God. This author describes God in three faces. There's a traditional God, the God out there. And we know that God, and what we call God, is nothing more than the field of consciousness from which everything is arisen. So there is a God in that aspect. Then the intimate face of God is you. To me, you are the face of God. Does that shock you? You are the face of God. You are the presence of God. That's the second face of God. And the third one is God in the first person is the image of God as me, the Christ self, the true self, the unique self, the Buddha nature, the eternal I am, pure awareness, pure consciousness, original I amness. So you see, this spiritual journey has been one of an ever-evolving understanding. And before I could understand God at the second level, I had to experience God at the first level. And I think that's true of many of us on a spiritual path. We need to go through that process of understanding God at a very elementary level before we can understand God at an expanded level. And now I believe the integral spirituality helps us to understand God on a very personal level. God shows up everywhere in everything and everyone. And that's what we are as an integral spiritual community. One that enjoys God and appreciates God and loves God and experiences God because God is right next to us, sitting next to us. We're experiencing God in every day. I see a couple of you smiling at your neighbor. Yes. So that's my story. That's my journey. And I'd like to have us continue to hear your story and your journey. If you'll be so bold as to come up here and speak some Sunday. So thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being the presence of God.
I love escalators because they never really break. They just become stairs. That's a Mitch Hedberg joke. I can't take credit for that one. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is everywhere. And every thought's indeed a prayer.
So we come to our time of meditation. I'd like to invite you, if you would, to just close your eyes and center yourselves on your seat. Let's take a deep breath. I've got a couple of questions. Questions to ponder. You might take these questions with you this week. What is God to you? Is it something to fear? Is God the goodness of life? Is God the presence? Is it God that beats your heart and causes your lungs to breathe? What is God to you? My second question is your God me enough? Is your God me enough? Can you wrap your thoughts around the fact that you are the presence of God, the power of God, the peace of God, the love of God? Everything your God stands for and more. Is your God me enough? Is your God me enough? Yes, it's so easy to fall back on our old understandings. And as we're enlightened, as we come closer to the truth, yes, God is you. God is you as you show up. God is you in each and every activity of your life. God is this community. God is the wind and the trees and the whatever's in nature. God is. And so in the transformation of our understandings, we are thankful for the questions. Maybe they're questions without answers, but we are thankful and we're blessed by the questions. Is your God me enough? So may the answers flow into us in many ways today and in the coming weeks. And so we pray, we affirm, we love. In the name of the Christ Spirit. Amen.
May the blessings of God rest upon me. May God's peace abide in me. May God's presence illuminate my heart now and forevermore. May the blessings of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide in you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. May the blessings of God rest upon us. May God's peace abide in us. May God's presence illuminate our hearts now and forevermore. Now and forevermore.
So we come to the time in our service. We ask the ushers to come forward. And with gratefulness we give. We know that as we give, shall we receive. So let's bless our offering with the words on the screen. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
I was really moved by the talk last week also, and I love how Jim ties in the very same idea of we are all just extensions. And how he talked last week about aloha, and what aloha is that marriage of life and light. So I just want to bring in today's talk and last week's talk and just do this Hawaiian chant together. I am dew, I am the dew, cleansing, cleansing. It is the marriage of light and love. It is aloha. He ke hao, he ke hao, o ma e ma e, o ma e ma e, ke aloha. Ke aloha. Yeah, everybody join in. He ke hao, he ke hao, que aloha, he que ha, he que ha, o o ma e ma e, o o ma e ma e, que aloha, que aloha, he que ha, he que ha, o o ma e ma e, o o ma e ma e, que aloha, que aloha, he que ha, he que ha, o o ma e ma e, o o ma e ma e, que aloha, que aloha, que aloha, que aloha, que aloha.
Well, do we have some? Oh, no, the young ones are busy back there. Okay. All right. Well, in closing our service, I'd like to remind you that we have a basket over there that Anne invited us to buy a plant. So if you can remember that. And I think that does it for today, isn't it? Yes, Julie? Blue agave. Okay, thank you, Julie. And thank you for being here on this Sunday morning in the middle of July. You're much appreciated in being part of our community. And those of you that are online, we love to see you once in a while in our pews, but we understand that many of you are at home because of reasons that you can't be here, including long distances. So thank you for being here virtually. Next week is John Magny with the music. Is that right, Elise? And who's speaking next week? Do you know, Ann? Sharon. Oh, Sharon. Oh, what? She's going to give you the rebuttal about what I had to say, okay? All right, great. So let's all circle up and join hands and wish those that you are next to aloha, I guess. So together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.